Okay.
You should still take notes. It's good for you. I need you to take notes to find out what I didn't say.
Yeah, I'll take notes on that stuff, but I won't take attendance. Oh, look, she's taking notes too.
Awesome. So if you just got here, go to the chat. If you look down at the bottom, you have the option to tap chat, or it might be at the top, depending on what device you're on. And let us know, where are you? And maybe what do you do? What's your job? All right. All right. Right. Thanks, Jackie. You're creeping on me.
I'm creeping on you.
Awesome. I know we have a few more people hopping in, so just be patient. Go get a drink, do something cool. We'll start in about 2 minutes. Oh, Morgan's disappearing.
15. How many are we expecting?
We should have about 6 more people.
Okay, 16.
So, waiting on Miss Jo. She should be here.
There's another one. Yay.
Hey, hey. If you just got here, go to the chat and let us know, who are you, what is your job, and where are you at this point? Awesome. Fabulous. So what do you think, Melanie, for time? Should I go ahead and start?
Yep, let's go.
Respect people's time. So
whoever's late to class can just catch up.
There you go. There you go. So the goal today isn't necessarily to make you an advanced user, but just get you comfortable with what is Zoom and how can you find what is available. There's a basic version, which is what we've been given access to kindly by Zoom. There is an advanced version. So if you've ever been in a Zoom chat with a big company, they have access to the advanced things, breakout rooms and all of that. We're not going to worry about that today. We're just doing the basics of Zoom and how do you make it work. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you give me a few, it'd be a lot easier to share everything with you. All right. Melanie, do you want to tell about how this came about, perhaps?
Yeah, so March 13th, March 13th was our last day with our students, and just like most of you, we were in live action teaching and just seeing email and hearing like on the fly. I mean, our teachers were just absolutely amazing. What are we doing? Do we send iPads home today with our K through 2? We are a one-to-one district, but our littles don't take their devices home. We have iPads. That stay in the room for them. But either way, our teachers are amazing. We had a last minute decision to have school out for a couple weeks. And of course, just like many of you, spring break was in the middle of that. So we are on spring break right now for this coming week. And then our governor said, okay, Indiana, no school until May 1st. So the first day we had no school, that was Monday, March 16th. We had an e-learning day so that we could meet with our teachers and kind of kumbaya the e-learning plans together. So we are still defining how our days will look, whether we do a mix of non-school days versus e-learning days, which waiver versus e-learning. We're still defining that, like I'm sure many of you are. So that's it. That's where we are.
Awesome. So we're just going to literally Zoom our way through this, not to be too punny, but what we're going to do is kind of take the upside down funnel approach. We're going to show you basic apps and then take you in at the end to the actual zoom.us website if you logged in, because there's a lot more there. So bear with us, we'll just work our way through it. So this is from the Zoom computer app that you can download. Very easy to do if you go to the website. So when I open that app, it's very simple to navigate for both you and your students, very easy to do. So you can start a new meeting, schedule a new meeting, join one from there. You just need a code to join. And then, of course, if you need to share your screen during a meeting, you can do it through there as well. So that's just the basic screen. And you can see on the right that I had meetings scheduled already. So that's there to remind me what is next, what is ahead. So this is then, if I go in at the top, I can now see where I am in a meeting. So I've launched a meeting, I'm inside of that computer app. And if you look across the bottom, there are several options for people to access. So I can invite someone directly from there. A teacher from our school said, hey, I forgot to email you, can you let me in? So I clicked on invite and chose her from my contacts, and she was able to hop in rather quickly. Manage participants, that's where I can go in and select certain things, and you'll see that later on how specific I can be. But I can manage people, mute them if I need to. I can actually kick them out of a meeting. We'll talk about that later. I've already had to do that once. Share screen is what I'm using right now. I'm sharing a very specific screen on my device so that you can actually see it. Chat is what you used when you came in. And right now I'm actually recording this meeting through that record button. And then reactions, we'll look at more specifically what students have, but there's a clap and a wave that students can use. So that's inside that meeting. So then if I go into just the basic chat, it's very, very simple. There's not much I can do outside of a meeting, but if I need to chat with a contact who will be in a meeting with me, I can communicate through this piece right here. And then when I go into the actual meetings tab of this app, it will show me all of my upcoming meetings and let me start them from this point. It's quite simple to do. If I need to delete a meeting, it's as easy as tapping delete. If I need to make a change, I can tap on edit and all is well. So very, very easy to navigate, not complicated. And then the last piece are contacts. And I connected my Google to here. So anyone in my contacts is actually from my Google contacts. And I can show you how to do that part later. So that's the actual app that you would download to a computer. It's very simple, very straightforward. I think something that any student could easily navigate through. And then this last piece, that is where you go to settings, the cogwheel at the top. So I can do a lot of personalized things. skin tone, you name it. What is the theme of my Zoom? Do I want certain things to happen automatically, or am I in control? So as you can see, there are a lot of customizing that you can do, and I promise your kids will find this and they will be customizing. Anything they can customize makes them happy. Okay, so that's the computer. So now we're in iPad school, so we thought we would give a preview of what does the app look like on an iPad. And from what I understand, it is very similar on an Android device as well. So when they go in, it's a lot like the app that I have on my computer. Looks almost the same, a little bit more simple. So I'm logged in, and you can see that I have the same thing: new meeting, schedule, join, and share. Very simple, looks like the other one. And when I then go in and tap on meetings, I can see what my personal code is, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But you can see all the things I need to see. My schedule's there again. I know what meetings are ahead for me. And over on the right, again, contacts. You're welcome to put them in on your own, or if you need to, you can sync through Google. Because I logged in with Google to the app, then all of my contacts are synced to it. So that's the easiest way, is to just, if you're a Google user, log in with Google and everything will be connected for you. All right. So then on this screen, I went ahead and tapped on contacts. The only difference is in the computer version, contacts was in your top right. On the iOS version, it's in your bottom left. So slightly different, same things. Again, people can customize like crazy. So I just tapped on meetings alone, and you can see that there's a long stream of options just under meeting settings. Awesome. And we were talking about this whole touch up my appearance. I would always be turning that on. So that's an interesting option there. Awesome. And if you're interested in that one, you have to scroll all the way to the bottom to get to the touch up. All right. So then in the iOS app, once I'm inside a meeting, I can then tap on meeting settings. I can minimize the meeting, or I can do disconnecting there. There's quite a bit to do. But it's not so overwhelming, again, that if you're running a meeting through here, that it would stress you out. So I'm answering a question for someone in chat. Awesome. Okay. So this is then the settings inside an actual call. So somewhat similar to what you saw on the outside, but these settings are specific to this actual meeting. So you can turn things on and off depending on what is happening and who is actually in there. So like the show name when participants join, if you're doing something that's fairly sensitive and you don't want their names to pop up, you could turn that off. So you can be very, very specific, and we'll get on later where you can actually take away the ability for students to share their screen. Only you can share the screen. And so that is possible as well. And there's the touch up appearance again. Yeah, that one's interesting. The one that I did do for this meeting, I did turn on the mute on entry. So when you guys came in, it automatically muted you so that we weren't getting an overabundance of sound. That can be very overwhelming with students. Our elementary teacher who's running the session later, I know in her first one, it was so incredibly loud in her first call that she learned rather quickly that she had to turn that feature on before the kiddos came into the meeting. So. All right. So this is where things get really, really detailed. But this is where I run all of my meetings through. I did start using an app at first, but I wanted a little bit more control. So this is where I would go to zoom.us, log in and run everything through their actual website. And that's where you get a lot more of control. Okay, so I'm gonna go on. So when I log in, this is the first screen that I see. And as you can see right here under my name, there's something called personal meeting ID. And we talked about this in our group meeting last night for these sessions, that we would use this possibly with probably our students, something that they know that that is their go-to meeting ID. This is the link they always go to for meetings with me, rather than throwing a new meeting at them every time. I think with high schoolers and middle schoolers, you could probably generate a new meeting. But if you're an elementary person, I know I have a few in here, you would probably want to use personal meeting ID, which you can make that happen when you set up a meeting. Or you can launch a meeting and then invite your kids and say, hey, I started a session, hop in with me. So you could do that either way. It's very, very easy to use, but yeah, again, middle school, high school, you could use different ones. I think elementary, stick with this personal. Okay, so to schedule a meeting, usually you could go to the top, tap on schedule a meeting, or you could also do it by just tapping on meetings on the left navigation. Okay, so then once I'm inside, I actually want to name the meeting. Stay away from just my meeting, be very, very specific, only because I know if several teachers in your school are going to use this, they're going to want to know, oh, this specific meeting is for that class. Oh, this meeting is for that class. Because if they're invited to something and they're going to attend, it'll be easier for them to actually type on the title that makes sense to them instead of just my meeting. So be very specific if you can. Always choose the date. That's really important. That's easy for you to keep track of what you've done and when. For meetings, I learned this the hard way. I met with some students and kept this at 30 minutes thinking, oh, no big deal, it'll be fine. Unfortunately, at the 30-minute cutoff, it just stopped my meeting and it was over. So that wasn't good for the kids. It took us a long time to get everybody back in. So always set it for at least a half hour longer than you plan on meeting. That will definitely keep the disaster from happening that happened to us. So the other critical thing is do your time. The first time I had it on Pacific time, and boy, did that cause confusion for the kids. So be very specific. That was another biggie that we said, oh, we need to know that. Okay. So then the next screen, this is where I did a drop down for you. You could do clear up to a 7-hour meeting. Why anyone would do 7 full hours on Zoom is beyond me, but if need be, that's what can happen. It's very, very simple. So again, always choose at least a half hour out from your intended time. That will save you. Okay, and then here is the part that I talked about, the meeting ID. You can generate just anything, any random number, or you can use your personal ID. That's where I think your elementary kiddos and maybe even 6th graders would benefit from the personal ID, and they know that every time they have a meeting with you, it's the same meeting number. Very simple for them. But if you're going to chat with a random group, a collective group, you could go general and be just fine with it. Meeting password, we almost considered that for today, not knowing how much that the information would be shared out, but I didn't set that thinking it wasn't a big deal. But if you had a top secret meeting and you didn't want anyone else to be able to hop in, I would probably set that password and maybe text it to people. Do something where it's not in the email that they can just forward on to someone else. That password would be good. Okay, so then video, this is when the actual thing starts. So I put that my video would turn on right away. but I would give you the option to turn it on when you're ready. So that's what that means. So I want my video to be running the minute I launch this in case someone's there. And otherwise you have a choice whether to be on camera or not. Okay. And then the next one, sometimes when you have a slower connection, telephone audio is a little better, but not necessarily. I always use computer audio and I've never had any issues with it. But there have been circumstances where if my connection is slower, I'll go ahead and leave the video on and use my phone for audio. Okay, so we had a good question. Someone said, do you know, can students open a meeting without using the code? They can. So if you send your students a link to your meeting and they click on the link, it will launch for them. Otherwise, if you just want to provide your students, and we were talking especially younger ones, just with the meeting code in the app, all they have to do is tap on join a meeting and enter the code and they're in. So again, it depends on your preference and what you think your kids can handle. So that's a really good question. So correct, students do not need to have an account. So if you generate the meeting code for them and send it to them, if they have the app somewhere on whatever device, all they have to do is tap on join, enter the code, and they're in. So hopefully that answers the question. All right. So then the next little piece in setting up your meeting, this is where I like to mute, and we talked about that with the littles. It gets insanely crazy. If you start a meeting and they're not muted right away, they'll find the mute button eventually, but it does get excessively loud. They're screaming and yelling, or saying, I can't find this and I can't find that. It gets very chaotic. So mute them if you could. It would be very, very easy. And then someone asked, can you create your own personal ID? My answer to that is I have no idea. I've never messed with it. So I'll put that on my to-do list after this one to find out. So that could be interesting. In terms of another question, so do they have to have something downloaded? They can go to their browser on a laptop and go to zoom.us and enter your meeting code. But it does not work on iPad if you just go to Safari. It requires them to get the app. We're not sure why, but that is the case. All right. And then here's something that I've also did the other day. I wanted to enable a waiting room. I didn't know how many kids were going to join my optional fun chat, but I wanted to limit it at 30. So I made a waiting room, and if I hit 30, I didn't let any more kids in, but I emailed the kid and say, hey, just hold tight. If someone leaves, I'll let you in. So that will keep your group small, but also controls who's in your room. It's really good to see who's entering in your room. So if you see a username or an email, and you have no idea who that is, that gives you the chance to quickly research who you might be letting in on that meeting. So that does make a difference. And then this part, enable join before host, I would not do that with kids. That gives them unsupervised time to talk to each other. And while we would hope to goodness that wouldn't cause any issues, it potentially could. So I never give them that option whatsoever. Record meeting automatically, that's up to you. It will record it at the end of this session, I'll have something that I can download and then share out to you as well. I started mine manually today, but you could have it start the minute you launch the meeting. But because I had like 10-ish minutes before I officially started, I didn't have that there right away. Cool. And again, if you have questions, still throw them over in the chat. I'll try to catch them as quick as I can. Awesome. So then once I had my meeting scheduled, it showed up in here. So I could then go to upcoming meetings. I could go to things previous. Maybe I wanted to go back and see, you know, when did I meet with that group last? There are a lot of options in here. So I have a question really quick. It says, when you conclude a meeting, does it log them all out too? Yes. So whenever the host ends a meeting, everybody is out of the meeting. So I can end it and kick everybody out at the same time. So yes, that makes sense. So very good. One thing that I will note in here, you can start the meeting from this part, but one thing that I had talked with Jackie, she's in the meeting, using the Chrome extension. So if I go out and grab that extension, it then puts a button, a shortcut button at the top right for Zoom. And if I go in there and go into settings, then I can make all of these quick settings for myself. So I tried to do one with her, and I did it and launched it, and it asked for a password. Well, I was like, I didn't set a password. However, in my settings up here, there was a password check mark right here. So if you would use the Chrome extension, you want to make sure that you go into settings and work your way through these, because these settings will apply to every meeting that you either schedule through here or start through here. That's really, really critical. But I will tell you, that fantastic little shortcut is amazing. That has saved me a ton of time. Okay. So once I had my settings all good to go, I could go up to the top and hit this little shortcut and then schedule a meeting from there. If someone asked for one, now I don't have to go to the website or open the app to do scheduling. I can do it right from there. Or if I wanted to start a meeting, I could do it from there just immediately and text or message someone, hey, here's my meeting code, or I could invite them from inside. So very, very easy to use. I highly suggest, if you're a Chrome user, go out and grab a hold of this extension. It is fantastic. Okay, so once I got into the meeting, I had a lot of options, obviously. One of the first things I look at is, you know, manage participants. I'll click there so that I can immediately see who is in my meeting. I want to know who I'm dealing with. So once I got in, I have two options for views. One of them is the gallery view, and that gives you that Brady Bunch feel. And then the other one is the speaker view, where whoever is speaking during the session, that's the face that we see in the middle of the screen. So you could do either way. Sorry about the ceiling view you get here in my living room. But so that works out pretty well. So very easy to toggle back and forth between the two. Okay, so someone said, how do you go out and get the extension? So the easiest way, without images to walk you through it, when I had a friend do it, I told her, go to just Google and search Zoom extension for Chrome. And that should take you to an option that links you to the actual Chrome store, where you can then add that extension. So it should show up as one of the first or second options. So that's the easiest way to find it. All right. So to save people's faces, we did a little cartoon. So sorry about that. So once I'm in here, if I look at the bottom left, we're going to take you from left to right across the bottom really quickly. So at the far left, I have the ability to mute or unmute myself, the ability to start and stop a video very, very easily. So if I get into something and, you know, I need to go take a drink, I can stop my video so that people aren't staring at me doing that. Whatever need be, that's easy to do. So that's great and simple and easy. The next thing is invite. And this is where, like I told you, one of our teachers said, oh my gosh, I forgot to sign up. Do you have a spot? Well, I could click on invite and pull her in. So once I clicked on that, it took me out to a place where I could email her or email anyone I needed that link to get them in. So that was super simple. So this is if I'm in the browser meeting. So that's where we are right now. If I happen to be in the Zoom software, it looks a little bit different, but very, very similar. So either way, I can pull someone in to my meeting rather quickly with having to leave and go through a whole lot of issues. The next thing is managing your participants. This one became very critical for me. I needed to know what I could and could not do. So if we look at this next screen, this is where if I go over here to the right, I can mute and unmute certain people in my session. I can do an individual chat with someone. That's really super helpful, especially if I have a specific question. I can stop a video for that person if need be. Perhaps something strange is going. I don't know if any of you have seen the funny video. People are Zooming and a lady takes her computer to a bathroom and she forgets to turn off her video. So that would be a moment that would be extremely useful for you. If I needed to make someone a host because I need them to take over, that is completely possible. I could rename someone, put on hold. I've done that before when someone is being excessively loud or really, they're just not contributing and being more difficult. And if need be, unfortunately, I've had to do it once. I can remove someone completely. But once I hit remove, that individual cannot get back into the meeting. They are officially out for the rest. So that would be like sending the student to the principal's office. So be very careful with this. So put on hold and remove. You definitely want to think through which one do you need to use in that moment. So, maybe telling the person, hey, you need to mute yourself, calm down, take a break. That's a whole new level of classroom management because they're not there in front of us. But okay. So then the next part is when I was screen sharing. If I go down to the bottom of screen share, there's a little arrow right next to the screen share where I can set it that only one participant can share at a time. That makes sure that another kid cannot interrupt and completely overwhelm the situation that we're in. You can do multiple participants showing, but then that gets extremely difficult to navigate and read on the screen. Let's see here. So I have a question really quick. If you see remove and it is a recurring session, does it kick that person out? No, it doesn't kick them out of recurring, just the one that you're currently in. So it will stop the situation for what you're in at that moment. And then if I go to advanced sharing, that's where I can decide who can actually share the screen. And that's a decision you want to make almost immediately when you start. Do you want other people to be able to share, or is it just you allowed to share? So right now, I'm saying only the host, but maybe in my class where I need kids to share, I can let all participants and make sure I have the one can share at a time taken care of. So that should make it less chaotic in the class there. Okay. Then the next thing is, what can I screen share? So right now I am doing a specific screen in Google Chrome. So that's what I selected instead of just my desktop. I can choose whiteboard, which is this one. I do find that on, for instance, my MacBook, this is somewhat difficult to navigate, but it is doable and it is useful if this is all you have. There are tons of tools that make it doable, especially for perhaps a math teacher. I know it's not perfect. I know math teachers, you want the perfect environment, and sometimes we try so hard for you. And I think this could be somewhat doable in a pinch if you needed to use it. But I think it would work out really well. And so then the next one was, if I want to share Google Chrome, and let's say I want to show a YouTube video. We're all going to watch this YouTube video together in Chrome. I would select the Chrome and then make sure that there's a check mark down where it says share computer sound, because now when I hit play on my device, the sound is going to be generated on the participant device as well. So as long as you're playing, they will hear it. Okay, so I'll go over that again. So I would click here on the actual thing I'm sharing, make sure I have share computer sound check marked. And once I have those 2 steps down, I would then go to the blue share button on the right. And so if all goes well, now my students can actually hear. So for a couple of my kids, I shared the Weird Al Yankovic Germs. I thought that was funny. We only watched the first 20 seconds of it, but they said, yeah, we can hear it. Oh my gosh, that's really weird and loud. So it worked really well. They said there was about a 1 to 2 second lag from me, but that wasn't very bad at all. Greatly appreciated that that was doable. Jackie, I know, has some big plans later to use this. They're going to watch some things together as part of their literary study. So that was really good. So someone said, how did you do the whiteboard? So if I would go back, all I do is select the whiteboard box here. If I tap on it once, it will turn blue and then go to share. So whatever you want on this panel, you'll tap on it once and then tap share. Excellent. And then I did get another teacher. She went ahead and showed me the iPad sharing. So she is currently sharing her iPad onto the Zoom screen so that students could follow along with any annotations she might be doing. If I'm correct, I think this is the Notability app that she is working through. So great way to do it. I, for some reason, could not get mine to do it, but my iPad is notoriously difficult. So I think for most people it would work. Mine is just troublesome at times. So yes, this one's fantastic. I don't know if Jackie will hop on. She did figure out how to use AirPlay with her Apple TV, which she can elaborate if she's willing.
Sure. So yeah, I actually I brought my Apple TV home. I went into the school and got it the other day in order to see if this would work. So I set that up and was able to use the AirPlay. I don't know if you can you go back a couple slides, Maria, to you know, the options. Yeah, right there. So iPhone/iPad via AirPlay, that option. And then I was able to AirPlay my iPad and share that through Zoom and do real-time annotations, which is going to be a huge game changer for me, for my English 12 and AP and English 11 honors classes. So I'm super excited about that. Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll move on here. So then the next thing, of course, is chat. You guys are getting used to that really well. So someone asked, I'm going to back it up a little bit. Is there a way to set things up before? So I had this slide show up ready to roll. Once I got this going, all I had to do was go in and share that screen specifically and then hit play on the slideshow, and we were off to the races. So you can have stuff prepped in the background. I've not necessarily mastered the art of getting everything to work where they can't see me setting things up, but I'm sure over time I'll figure that out. We're just proud that we figured out how to make work what we have gotten to work so far. So, what do you think? Would the iPad benefit elementary students? Probably. I could tell you that just living with a math teacher, being able to use that iPad white screen really does come in handy. And to do specific writing and annotating, it might be extremely beneficial. But remember, you can AirPlay or you can just use the cable from your computer to your device, whatever it is that you're using. So yes, it might be beneficial in some cases. I wouldn't say in all, but in some, yes. Okay, so then one of the things we discovered in chat, if you are using a laptop and your students are using a laptop of some kind, it doesn't matter if it's PC or MacBook, you can share files. But we have found that I cannot share a file from my MacBook to someone with an iPad. Now, I don't know how that falls in Android world. Maybe it does work, but we know that we cannot share files through here from MacBook to an iPad. So you'll have to make that adjustment and perhaps get the file to them ahead of your Zoom chat. And that would make it a little bit more doable. So I wouldn't depend on this unless you have pre-tested it with a student or two. So that could get a little scary. So test that with 1 or 2 kiddos before you try to use the share file. The other thing you need to be aware of in the chat, you can choose specific individuals or you can choose chatting with everyone. So if you're going to chat with someone, be very careful. You don't want to send a private message and accidentally send it to the whole group. So take your time and try to figure that out. Okay, so this was the record thing I told you about. Once I got in here, we decided to start. I recorded the meeting so that I had an actual archived version. I would imagine that would come in handy. So perhaps, you know, a family has internet, but they don't have it until dad comes home with his cell phone at 6 o'clock. And perhaps he has to go to work. So that would be good. You could archive it somewhere and the kids could still watch the session and be in the know for what's happening in class. Okay, so it looks like we have a question. That's a good question. Jackie, did we try sharing from iPad to laptop?
I don't think we did because I have MacBook, so
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, that is a great question.
That is a good one. I think we just assumed it wouldn't work. We'll have to research that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then of course reactions, you can have those as well. So if you go down there and somebody says something, you can give them an applause, or you know, if everything is well, you can give a thumbs up. So you as the host have that, and your participants also have the same thing. So you can go through and interact with them in that way as well. So some things that we've done, I know we're flying through this really fast, and I apologize. Oh, Jackie's giving a thumbs up. Good job. So it shows up on the person's picture. So if you're in gallery mode, try giving a thumbs up or like a clap and see if you can see what shows up on your window. Yeah. So fun little way to interact. You know, kids love emojis. Give them that little chance, but they can't go too far with it. So some of the stuff that we've done so far are expectations meetings. So that's my plan. When we kick back into session after spring break, is having that expectations meeting with my kids and saying, here's what I expect. And this is how things are going to be moving forward. This is what we have to do. So a great way to just set the tone starting in with the kids. So right now I'm doing this a lot just on break, chatting with kids to keep them connected. You'll be surprised who ends up, but I invited anybody from 6 through 8 in the middle school, and the group that I got was totally not the group I would have there in my mind, but my gosh, did they enjoy every second of it. So it's a great way to just keep connected, because some of those kids just really don't maybe have those connections at home. Progressive story sessions. So Melanie got to participate in one of these. I let the kids choose a topic. One of the kids started the first sentence, and for the next half hour, we came up with the most ridiculous, insane stories you've ever heard, but they loved every minute of it. So the creative juices are going, and the kids are still interacting with each other in a positive way. So that was a lot of fun. I'm going to let Jackie take this one because she's in the room.
Oh, hey. Okay. So, you know, I think in my English 12 class, we've been reading night. So I'm going to use Zoom in order to read aloud to them and in real time, and be able to pause and ask questions just like we would in a classroom. And then also have the chat going so that, you know, maybe if they're thinking of a question as they're listening or reading along, you know, they can, you know, throw a question in the chat, and then when we pause, I can look and see, where their understanding is. And then also, I got really excited about this morning because I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be so much fun. So Digital Theater Plus is offering free distance learning access to their website. So we are going to try to watch, my AP kids, we're going to try to watch The Importance of Being Earnest, which is what we're reading right now, through that. And we'll be able to pause and discuss it and everything, because with it being a play, I feel like, I'm a theater person, so I feel like it's meant to be seen, and the reading just kind of enhances it. So I'm really super excited about trying that out with them.
Cool. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Math lessons from the farm. I know one of our kindergarten teachers was doing a math lesson. What were they counting eggs, Melanie?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
she took them out to their chicken coop and they were counting eggs. And I guess the kids knew that she was going to the meat locker, but she wasn't sure how much they would get. So that was going to be another math lesson today. How much did she come home with? So she's using this tool just to get them that near and dear experience with them, making it personal, but they're still learning. And so that's a really big step to take. I know for some of us that would be probably uncomfortable, but for others of us that might be just totally fine. So if you have that option, go for it. One of the things, we're still going to move forward with a big collaborative project in my class. I'm still, of course, brainstorming like crazy. How in the world am I going to make this work? But I'm hoping to use Zoom as something that I can conference with those small groups to get them where they need to be. And if I decide that this online option is just insane, I can go elsewhere. So I can maybe do individual project conferencing and just talk one-on-one with those kids just to get some really good feedback to them, and then they can provide it back to me as well. What else do you need moving forward from this point? So students can show us everything they need to as we're working through their projects. And then one-to-one help sessions. We all know those kiddos who definitely need just that one-on-one time, even if it's 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever is needed for them. So it makes a really big difference moving forward. I think from this point, be willing to use this in any setting. And then we have some templates because we're still thinking this through. But do you guys have any questions moving forward for this point? I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. I'll share it back because I have a link for you to get all of this later.
Maria, do you see my little hand up in the corner?
I do. You want to tell us about that one?
So if you go down to participants at the bottom of your screen, you can pull up and see, let's see, it doesn't work in this avenue because I can already see all of you. But when you were on the other screen, like when there was an assignment on the screen, if you click on participants, it brings up a window and shows you, well, now I see it in the top right. Can you guys see it? If you click on participants, the list goes above the chat over there. Can anybody? Yeah, no.
I do see it. It's right next to your name.
Okay, so then you can scroll, because I was trying to figure out how to know. I mean, I see faces, but a couple people are logged in under just the word iPhone. So I wouldn't know as a teacher how to take attendance that way. But either way, when you look at that screen down there, you can click on mute me or raise hand. And when I click on raise hand, then that little hand goes up in the corner. So if you're teaching, the students have a question, if they don't want to put the chat, they put the raise hand up there, and then I can lower my hand again and remove it.
Awesome. Can you share a screen while in gallery mode? You can be in any mode to share your screen. So I can see all of you right now, but I can pop it into share screen mode really, really quickly. So it doesn't matter where I am up in the main area.
So Maria, since I see Lindsay Hamilton, Deborah, Sadie, Sellers, and then iPhone, but I don't see their faces. So that's just because they haven't turned on the video in the bottom left next to the microphone, right?
Yes.
And And that's an option too. You can go back and forth from avatar to, well, no avatar, just your name, I guess.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So can you share this once it's over? I know Amanda asked that earlier. I tried to answer that, but I want to make sure I'm correct. Since you have this on video, since you recorded this, how can you share this then later? Oh,
I will share it later. I think for me, I'm going to put it unlisted on my YouTube channel and then email the link to everyone who's here.
ooh, cool.
So that way it's not taking up any crazy space in terms of me trying to email it, and then it's not on my device either. So it's just out there for you to grab anytime you'd like to see it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Now can I ask one more question, then I'll stop asking questions?
Yeah, you're good.
What if someone says, hey, are you in a Zoom session right now? Can I get the code? And do they only have to receive the digits from you? Or if I just sent a screenshot of the 9 digits to someone and said, yeah, try to hop on, could they or no?
Yes. So if you're in the session and they want in and you know the session ID, you can share that with them anytime.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, good.
So, and then if I know who they are, then I can go down to the invite at the bottom and just invite them right away.
Oh, okay.
So if you want this presentation, the bit.ly link at the bottom is all yours. So you'll be able to view this and then copy it if you need to use it for anyone else. So we don't own it. Whatever you need to do to use it, go for it. So it's all yours. So I know this went really fast. I apologize for that, but hopefully you've got something out of it. And if you still have questions, email me, because we're learning things about this hourly at this point. So every time I get on here, I find something new.
Thank you, Maria. Can you unmute us so we can say goodbye? Can you let us out of talk jail?
All you have to do is hit your unmute button.
Okay.
Yeah, bottom left.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Maria.
Bye.